all the joints have been set up, and now it's time to parent some of the geometry to them. I want to start with this geometry for the torso. Let's name it torso Satan torso geometry. Delete transformations and freeze history, or freeze transformations and delete history. I want to hold shift, select the joint, and hit P to parent. You can either hit P or go to edit and parent down here. So now whenever I move this joint, the body moves along with it. Want to parent the hands, the arms. Select the geometry. Always select the child first and then the parent. So select the child, shift select the parent, hit P to parent. Select the forearm, shift select the joint, parent. Select the hand, shift select the joint, parent. I want to test it out to see if everything is working. Rotate it, and it works. Let's do the right side. Geometry, shift select the joint and hit P to parent. Select the geometry, select the joint, hit P to parent, geometry, joint, hit P to parent. Let's test it out. And it's working. Let's parent the head. Select the geometry. Always the child first and then the parent. Child, shift select the parent and hit P to parent. I'm still thinking where I'm gonna parent the beard, the mouth, the eyes. It might just be the same joint. I know the horns will be here for sure because they're not gonna change. Hit P to parent. I'm gonna hold off on these. Let's do the legs. Well, before we do the legs, let's select this fur. Select the fur. Select my root joint. Hit P to parent. I'm gonna do the legs. Thigh. Shift select thigh joint, parent. The reason why I opened the outliner is because I want to make sure that these are not under any group like these other pieces here. And I'll deal with these later, but for now I just want what I have here. And if I press F on my outliner, I can see that right now it's just part of my skeleton, so this is good. Select the leg, shift, select joint, parent, geometry, joint, parent. Let's go to the left side. Geometry, joint, parent, geometry, joint, parent. Same thing for the hoof. Let's test it out. It's working. It's working. I'm gonna select the root joint just to see that everything moves along with this. This is working. I'm gonna parent the eyes, the beard, and the mouth to my head joint, or to my neck joint rather. So I'll just shift select everything here. Eyes. The eyeballs are gonna be rigged separately, so I don't want to parent them to this. Select the nose, that line of the nose, the bottom of the nose, the beard, the mouth, and at the very end I want the joint. Select that. Parent. I want to test it out. I want to rotate. It's working. My eyeballs stay behind. That's okay. And now I want to start adding some controls to this. When I go into my animation menu and double click on my IK handle tool. Now there's two kinds of IK handle tools. Well, there's more, but for this regular IK handle tool, I want to reset my tool, and by default it's set to the Embarrass Kinematic single chain solver, which means that if I have two joints, three joints, and I make a joint chain, and I make my IK solver, IK handle, I'm going to be able to just move it by pulling on it. Now the IK rotate plane solver, which is under this option here, when you click it, it has this little circle on the top, which means that not only can you flex your joint, but you can also rotate it from here. From here. Come on. Well, I'll do it through my attribute editor, or my channel box. It has this twist attribute, which allows you to twist your joint. So for the legs, I want a single chain solver because this is a 2D character. There's not going to be a need to have any kind of rotation on it. I just want it to go up and down. So double click on my Embarrass Kinematic handle. I want to make sure that it's on single chain, and I want to set the root of my chain to the hip, and I want to finish my handle right at the end of the heel. Now whenever I move it, you can see that my foot moves. I'm going to do the same for the other side. I can't see it, so I'll go into wireframe mode, set the root and the handle. Make sure that you start here and then finish here, because if you do it the other way around, it's not going to work. The IK handle is going to be up there and it'll just won't work. So I want it just like this. I want to make one more from the heel to the hoof on both sides. Heel to hoof and heel to hoof. I want to make sure I name them. This is my left leg IK. This is my right leg IK. Just my left hoof IK. Left underscore hoof IK. And let's make the one for the right hoof. Oh, it's already there. So right underscore hoof underscore IK. I want to make one for each arm. And for the arms, I'm going to use my rotate plane solver. So instead of just having your regular IK, I'll change it to the IKRP. Set the root of my IK and the handle. And you can see that I have the little twist circle up here. So the same for the right side. Set the root and the handle. Want to move it? It's working. I want to add one more single chain to the hand, and again single chain. Set the root, set the handle, hit Y to repeat my tool, set the root, set the handle. I'm going to move it to see if it's working. It is. I want to grab my IK here to see if everything looks good. It's working. Okay, so now I want to start setting up the controls for this. The way that we're going to control this is through curves, and the reason why you use curves is because they don't render. Not that we really render this kind of object. We could, but there's no point. Usually if you just look at the object the way it is, let me open my render, it'll render just the same. So I see no difference. I see no reason why to render, but on rigging you just usually rig with make the controls for your rigs with curves. Well, I do anyways. I want to go to my front view. I want to go into my curves shelf, double click on my curve. By default your curve setting is going to be on cubic, which means that whenever you make a curve it's nice and smooth, but I don't want it for this because the shapes of this devil are kind of smooth, and then I don't want to get them confused with my controls. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make it linear so that I can draw, instead of something curved, something nice and sharp. I want to start with my hoof and start here. Yeah, start here. Here I want something to resemble the shape of what it controls. So this is going to control the hoof, so I'm going to shape it like the hoof. You want it to be fairly intuitive. You want to make it so that whoever's animating this can kind of tell by the shapes that you're doing what they're going to be able to control with it. I want to hold shift to make a straight line. Actually, I don't want it like that. I want it the other way. I'm gonna start it here. Sorry. Like I said, you want it to be intuitive for whoever gets to animate this. They can tell, like, oh well, this is shaped like a hoof, so it must control the hoof. Your job as a rigger is to make the job of an animator easier. It's to keep your animator happy. So I'm gonna make this line because this is how it's going to indicate that it controls the hoof. I'm gonna move it to the side a little bit, just like that. Now what I want to do is to move my pivot to somewhere where It makes sense. But before I do that, freeze transformations and delete history. Freeze transformations, delete history. And I want to move it into place because it's probably way in front. It is. Hold V to snap to point. Move it back at the same level where my skeleton is. Move my pivot. Press insert. Hold V. Snap to point. You're gonna see the little magnet. Whenever I press V to snap to point, there's this little magnet up here that indicates that I'm snapping to magnet. So hold V or just press this and then move it from the middle to your joint. Freeze transformations, delete history. I'll call this my left leg control. I want to duplicate it, give it a negative value on the x-axis, -1. Hold V to snap to point. Oops. And snap it to the other joint. There's my control, and this is going to be called my right leg control. Underscore leg control. Now I want to parent both of my IKs to the control. So select my IK. Make sure you select the IK and not the joint. So if you need to zoom in to select that, do it. Select the IK, shift select my control, hit P to parent. Go to this other IK, shift select the hoof or the hoof control, P to parent, and I want to test out the movement. And it's working. I want to test the rotation, and the rotation is working also. I want to do the same for the right side. Select the IK. Select the IK, shift, select my hoof control or leg control. This has a -1 here, so that's why it flipped. So I want to freeze transformations, delete history just in case. I probably didn't need to do that, but let's see. Oh, parent. Select my IK, select the control, hit P to parent. I want to test to see if it's working. I must have parented this to something else by a mistake. So I want to unparent it by pressing Shift P. Now select it again, hold Shift, select the joint, hit P to parent. I want to test it again, and now it's working. Let's start. Let's go for the arm controls. So this is working. This is working. The rotation is working. The rotation in this is working, and the movement is working also. I'm going to wireframe mode, and I want to make a control for the hands. This shape is kind of awkward. I don't like the shape of the hand that I have there. I'm just going to make a nice little square for the control here. I'm going to show my grid. Go into my curves. Select my EP curve tool and make a square. Hold X to snap to grid. and make a line. Want to move the pivot to the end of my curve, so insert, move it up. I want to zoom in, and now I want to snap to curve. Hold V. It's a little bit tricky to snap to curve because if I just press V and hold that, it'll snap to the polygon. What I want to do is make sure that I put it like right over the curve here. Hold V. Oops, V is for point. Hold C, and it'll snap to curve. And I want it right on the edge. Then I want to move my object so that it's lined up with the skeleton. So hold V to snap to point and point it right at the skeleton. I'm gonna zoom in just so that it's clear where I snapped it to. Freeze transformations and delete history. Freeze transformations, delete history. I'm gonna duplicate one for the other side. Scale it -1 on the x-axis. Hold V to snap to point and snap it to the joint. Freeze transformations, and I'll name this my left underscore arm control. This is my right arm underscore control. The same thing that I did to the legs, I'm gonna do to my arms, which is select my IK, shift select the control, hit P to parent, select the IK, shift select the control, hit P to parent. I forgot to name these IK handles. Let's name them. My left hand IK. This is my left arm IK. IK stands for inverse kinematics. IK is my right arm IK, and then the right hand IK. And the reason why I do two IKs is because the first one, when I parent the first IK to my control, it moves the arm, but it has no control over the rotation of the hand. So the second IK is going to control the rotation of the arm or the hand. So when I parent this to my control, now not only do I have control over the arm, I just parented something wrong. Okay, did I parent this? So parent the arm, and then parent the hand. So not only do I have control over the arm, but also I have control over the rotation of the hand with the same control. And that's what I want. I want to check to see if everything's working right. I want to select the control, the root joint. Let's go to front view. Get rid of this grid. and it already has some nice movement. I can make it dance, make it jump, I can control the hands, I can control the legs, I can control the head, but I still need to make a control for the head. But if I select the joint, the head moves. I want to make a control for the hips or for my root joint, because whenever I'm animating, I don't really want to touch the joints. I want to be able to control my model with a curve. So I'll make a circle, go to curves, create a circle, hold V to snap to point, and I want to snap it to the root joint. Hold V. That's right in the middle of my root joint. Make it smaller. Oh, no, I'll leave it like that. That's a good size. Since I'm gonna be controlling my model most of the time on front view, if I leave it as a circle, it'll just show like a flat line, and it might be hard to find later on, and I don't want that. So what I want to do is go into my history and give it 12 sections. Go to control vertex, select some of these vertices. So I select one and leave one unselected, then select every other vertex so that I make it into this curvy circle. But get into object mode, center my pivot again, modify, center pivot, and snap it again to my root joint. There it is. Now I want to parent the root joint to my circle, which is going to be called my, well, let me freeze transformations, delete history. I don't need it anymore. I'll select the root joint to the circle. So parent, hit P, and I'll call it root control. Now whenever I select the root control, I have control over the root joint, and I like this. I want to make one more circle, which is going to be control for the top of the body. So one more circle. And this one, I'll leave it flat. And make it a little bit bigger. Freeze transformations and delete history. I don't want to parent it yet. I want to make a control for the neck or the top of the head. And I'll make a, I'm thinking whether to make an arrow or just another circle. Let's make an arrow for this. Front view, display my grid. Make sure that it's on linear. And I want to start here in the middle. 2, 3, and I'm gonna make an arrow. And the reason why I'm giving it vertices or vertex in between is because I want to curve it so that it looks sort of like an N shape. So look, 2. My arrow on a center pivot. I have my shortcut set as Control P for center pivot. And I want to move this up so that it looks like it's curving. When I go into my rotate options, I want to be able to reflect so that when I rotate on this side, it rotates on the other side. Move it down a little bit. And there's 2 things that I can do here. I can either parent this head joint to my control here, and then move my pivot before I parent it. I probably have to move my pivot down to where the joint is. I want to move this back. Hold V to snap to point. Move back to where the neck is. And I want to freeze transformations and delete history. So select my head joint. Shift select my head control. Hit P. And now whenever I select this here, this is how it rotates. And I like this. The other way is to make an IK and then parent the IK to this, but this is working just fine. I forgot. I can't just parent the joint to my control because otherwise it's gonna detach from the neck. So I want to do a constraint parent, not just a parent. So again, it's clean. It's not. I've unparented. I want to select my control first, then the object that is going to be control, and go to my animation submenu, constrain parent. A constraint parent is a lot different than a parent from my edit menu. If anybody has any questions about this, I'll do another tutorial on it. But just remember, this is going to be a constraint parent and not a regular parent. So now that it's moving, and I will continue the rest of this skeleton setup on the next video.